I'd like to thank everyone for coming and welcome everyone here. My name's Marty Shingler. I'm a full-time faculty member in the Engineering Technologies area, and I'm in charge of the Siemens Lecture Series. Our speakers tonight are John Spurk and Evan Spurk of Nottingham Spurk, located in Cleveland Heights. Is it Cleveland Heights or Cleveland technically?
It's actually Cleveland, but it's close enough.
Close enough for government work, right? All right. Before we get going, I'd like to thank Siemens for sponsoring our lecture series. As indicated on this slide, one of the things that Lakeland has been able to do is decrease our carbon footprint, our greenhouse gas emissions by about 40% from 2007 to 2014. A lot of this is due to our cooperation with Siemens and our efforts with Siemens. Also, we are about 45% below our greenhouse gas emissions, the national average for higher education within the United States. Again, this is due to our partnership with Siemens, and we'd like to really thank Siemens and appreciate their effort in sponsoring this lecture series and also with their efforts in helping us achieve these goals in reducing our energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. In attendance and representing Siemens tonight are John Vernack, Alex Johnson, and Ann Sosik, who had to leave early to attend a family matter. Our speakers tonight are John Spurk and Evan Spurk of Nottingham Spurk. Nottingham Spurk is a leading business innovation firm with over 1,000 commercialized patents. Their vertical process has helped client partner companies earn over $50 billion in combined sales. Their Innovation Center is a nationally recognized historical landmark located in University Circle of Cleveland. Their world-class facility is one of the most complete vertically integrated product development centers in the U.S., combining product invention, design, and engineering with rapid prototyping, structural packaging, branding, consumer research, quality control, and global sourcing of manufacturing. John Spurk is co-president of Nottingham Spurk. He received his industrial design degree from the Cleveland Institute of Art and has received several honorary doctorate degrees. He serves on the Cleveland Clinic Board of Trustees, CWRU Technology Commercializing Visiting Committee, ThinkBox Advisory Board, and the boards of the Cleveland Institute of Art and University Circle. And he has won the Cleveland Arts Prize for Design. Evan Spurk has been with Nottingham Spurk for over 5 years as a designer and program manager, and prior to that, he worked with China at VTech, designing next-generation phones for the U.S. market, before returning to work at Ford Motor. He was involved with several vehicle programs, some of which have been integrated into today's Sync platform. He also has a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Industrial Design from the Cleveland Institute of Art, and I've been told is working on one of the largest betting companies that we will redefine how you sleep. It's my pleasure to introduce John and Evan Spurk.
Great. Thank you all for coming. Innovation, right? We all know what that word means, or at least we think we know what it means. We have been working in this area for our entire career. I want to show you some of the things that we have worked on over the years, but I made a statement at a Forbes conference, and you probably all heard the statement about they were going to close down the UK patent office in 1900 because everything had been invented, right? Why keep the patent office open? And it was obviously a very bad statement to make. The statement I made, which I thought kind of rivaled that one, was I was in a big group in a Forbes conference, and they'd ask a question, and I said, well, everything's been invented. And what I meant was, we have 1,000 patents in our organization, and every time we look at something we think is just breakthrough, we'll do a patent search, and there it is, or something very close to it. And so we've learned over the years that a patent really, getting an intellectual property protection, is usually a combination of things. It's never one thing. And that's where this collision of unrelated ideas concept came in. Where did we begin? Well, that's me on the right, and that's my partner on the left. You've got to start in a garage. So if you're in an office, get out of there, get in the garage. It's the only way you're going to succeed. This was a little carriage house. We called it a carriage house. It was a garage in University Circle. We went to the art school there in the late 60s, and we had a great time working in there. We then, about a block away, this building became available when we had outgrown the other one. This beautiful building. And we had about 2 blocks away kind of a factory building that we had our prototyping. We've always been in a position where we wanted to build things. It was never just concepts or reports. We did that, but we also wanted to build it, engineer it, make it work, prove the feasibility out of it. And you want to build a space to inspire. This is our current building. This is literally within walking distance of the other 2. This was a former Christian Scientist church, and it sits on the hill. I don't know if any or many of you know University Circle. It actually, if you look beyond the trees, University Hospital, Cleveland Clinic, Severance Hall, and so on. And that happens to look like Severance Hall, and there's a good reason for that. This building was built as a Christian Scientist church, was built for 1,000 members back in the late 20s. And if any of you know Christian Scientists, it's the faith that does not believe in doctors. Not a good recruiting model. So they had been losing members for years. Again, built for 1,000 members. When we started talking to the church, because we knew they were trying to sell the building, they had 15 active members, 15. And what they said is, if we had to move into that part of the building in order to save it from being torn down, we'll do that. We'll just shut everything else down. And we understood and appreciated that. There were 8 buildings like this in Cleveland. This is the only remaining one. The rest have been torn down, or will be, because they've fallen into disrepair. So we worked with the church. We basically, there's 6 acres of property that go with this, overlooking the University Circle campus, which is beautiful. Marty's walked by this building many times when he was in his early years. The reason it looks like Severance Hall is John Severance, when he was looking to build a home for the orchestra, walked around University Circle, wanted to see the Museum of Art in that area, found the perfect spot where Severance is. The problem is, this church owned that property. This is in the mid-20s. He wasn't going to be deterred by that. He sat down with the church members, made them an offer they couldn't refuse, paid $600,000 in 1926 for that little postage stamp property. The church was glad to take that. They bought this property on top of the hill and paid for the entire church with that. So John Severance, when he was going through that negotiation with the church, saw what they were planning and retained Walker and Weeks, very prominent architectural firm of Cleveland, retained them. The limestone that covers this entire building, same quarry. You can certainly see remnants of Severance Hall in this building. So when people come and say, this looks like Severance, we go, no. Severance looks like this. Because this was under construction when Severance was still being planned. So there's a great history with this building. Many, many developers were looking at this building, talking to the church. Everyone, as the church told us, would walk through, they'd look around and go, can you tear it down? And the answer was yes. There was nothing to stop a person from buying it and tearing it down. The property was beautiful, it sits on the ridge. They wanted to build condos and townhouses right next to the University Circle. It was a perfect spot to build that. The problem was that was in the way, and it was a liability. Now, the church did not want to sell it and watch it being torn down. So that's why they worked with us. We basically acquired this for the price of the land. The church really had no value. We put a ton of money into it. It was put a new roof, No air conditioning, had to do that. There were 4 working outlets in the entire building. We had to rewire the entire building. Internet? No, of course not. So we had to do all these things to get the building up to speed, current. So it's a magnificent structure today, but it took a lot to get to it. A lot of people wonder what this tower was for. Bells? No, interestingly enough. Right down here was a giant coal bin. The trucks would back up, 3-story coal bin. Under here, a boiler the size of something in this room. It would fire up and heat the whole building. They needed a smokestack. This was a smokestack. The smoke would come out at the very top of the church, of the tower. So you'd see this black plume of smoke. Fortunately, in the 50s, they stopped burning coal, put natural gas in, but the tower remained and served no purpose until we acquired the building. Now, when we did, Case, who we have great ties with for years, came to us and said, "We need your tower." They were just ready to build a steel tower to broadcast Wi-Fi to the campus. This is the perfect spot. It's one of the highest points in the whole area. In fact, we've been told that the top of our tower is actually close to the top terminal tower because we're up in the heights. Cleveland's down by the lake. So it's a very good point, certainly in the campus, to put Wi-Fi antennas. I would have to point them out to you. They're not in this photograph, I don't believe. No. But you almost don't even know they're there. There's these very slim, one on each face, that broadcast Wi-Fi to the entire area. Now, for putting those towers or the antennas up, they brought their FiberNet or their internet, their fiber optic trunk line up through our building. So we have phenomenal bandwidth in this building, thanks to our partnership with Case. This is the inside. This is a 5-story building. You come in on the 4th floor, it's 3 stories down and 1 up. The upper floor is a balcony, as you can see. That's where we have our insights, research, graphics, digital. The lower floor here, or this bottom area, we have our creative, our industrial designers and our creative. Below that floor, we have our engineering. Below that, what you're looking into is our prototyping. We build things. We have the biggest floor in our building is dedicated to prototyping. We have every piece of equipment you can imagine, from 3D printers to digital CNCs, 5-axis routers, prototype size injection molding, rotomolding, casting of all kinds, welding. We have 2 car-size spray booths where we can coat, paint, seal anything we need to. We build things. This is part of the country where you build things right, and we practice that religiously. This is kind of a cut-through of what's on each of these floors, because we talk about something called vertical innovation. It's something we coined, and the idea is to speed the process up. Most companies, it takes them a long time to get new product into the market. We have cut that considerably with this process. Insights on this floor: branding, design, engineering, prototyping, sourcing. So the building kind of mirrors the process, which is this vertical innovation. We have about 1,000 patents. It's probably over that by now. Edison has 1,093, and he's not making any more. So we're going to pass him one of these days. Commercialize is the important word here. That means a product has come out of it, it's been put into the marketplace, it's generated revenue for one of our client partners. Very important part. They're not just filing patents on a defensive way, they've actually been put into use and into practice. Innovation is a restless pursuit, not an event. I mean, you've got to keep doing it. It's kind of underwhelming. It's usually a lot louder than that. Anyway, that's where, getting back to when I started this Creative Collisions, you're looking at things as you go through our process and try to connect the dots and create something that, the 1 + 1 = 3 concept. You look at a toy, many of us had that little Radio Flyer wagon, and then you look at a bedpan. Now, how could you put these two things together and make something out of it? Well, interestingly enough, this is actually a Northeast Ohio company. You familiar with that product? That was one of many products that came out of a company called Little Tikes. Little Tikes was a company called Rotodyne. They were making bedpans for the hospital business with a process called rotational molding. All these products are rotationally molded. We started working with them. They were doing, I'm getting ahead of myself. We designed the logo for them, designed hundreds of products over the years for Little Tikes. The toy line actually started to become bigger and bigger than their custom molding line. They dropped that and called the company Little Tikes. Started, they were doing $600,000 in sales. At its peak, the world's largest rotational molder doing over $600 million in sales with products like these. Come this? Come on. Okay. You take glue, right? Many times you mix two parts together and it goes out, right? A hypodermic needle. Now, believe it or not, this was like, the product I'll get to in a second, was very risky for a company, but yet they came out with the dual syringe. I don't know why these are disappearing so fast. I apologize. Loctite, we were the first ones to do a dual syringe. You have a part A, part B, rather than mixing them or individually putting them out, you squeeze one. The idea was this idea of putting something in a syringe that was not medical was a concern for the company. But they went ahead anyway, and obviously it's a standard in the industry, many industries, relative to using syringes now to dispense in an equal way.
Yeah, when we present this in California, in Hollywood, those explosions get huge laughs. I don't know what happened here. This was, by the way, you shouldn't feel honored, but this is the first time we've been on stage together presenting.
That is true.
So he's doing a good job.
That is true. He's always someplace. I'm always someplace else.
He's the sun, I'm the fountain.
Yeah, right.
So anybody ever use a spin brush in here? Okay, nice. Keep buying them, please. So everybody had a manual toothbrush, and a long time ago, before I even worked there, they created this $2, $3 rotating pop sucker, right? Who would have want one of those? It sold like gangbusters. So they put them together, and did we take out the explosion? The one slide I had? Thanks.
I can try again. You try again?
No, it's okay. No. So what happened was they learned that there was a gap in the marketplace where a company came out with a $10 manual toothbrush, and they were making these rotating suckers for like retail $5. So they said, what if we put those two together? And what happened was they developed this, and it was a $4.99, $5.99 battery-operated toothbrush. And it's now the #1 selling toothbrush in the world. And it was funny, when they tested this in consumer focus groups, people were like, it's a toothbrush, who cares? Big deal. And it was crazy. But then you put it into a Walmart where you get a 5-pack, and they're discounted, and you go buy it, you take it home, kids try it, they like it, and it just took off. And is there more? Let's see, there's more slide. Okay.
That toothbrush is, let me just go back. That was eventually sold to Procter & Gamble, spin brush. And it became, you hear about open innovation. Procter & Gamble kind of started that process in the early 2000s. There it goes.
Of course.
And, okay, I know, I'm getting ahead of myself here. And so that became really the poster child for the open innovation. Oh, I love that. That's the difference. At its peak, we were manufacturing 400,000 toothbrushes a day. We were the largest buyer of AA batteries in the world. We were buying 1 million AA batteries a day. That was the power of a $5 powered toothbrush. Because before that, they were $50 to $100. You couldn't, a lot of people couldn't afford it. And certainly no child would have a $50 toothbrush to hit the ground, right, in the bathroom. So we created a market for a good product, able to put in the hands of children, improving the oral care area in the country. Paint, we've all had that issue, haven't we? That's the vision of painting. And we've been involved with blow molded bottles and liquid detergents and things like that for years. So again, putting these kind of processes together and it comes out with a plastic paint container for Sherwin-Williams. That's the Dutch Boy. It's been on all the Sherwin-Williams brands as well. That was named one of the 10 best packages of the decade. And it's in pretty good company, along with squeezable ketchup, the Coke fridge pack, the plastic beer bottle. So it is in good company. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, that's a nice, fun one. Everybody's used K-Cups for coffee, right? And so Scott's, they're in Columbus, Ohio. They have the spreader, you have the big bag, you cut it off, you put it in the hopper. And they said, we need something new. So we came back and just started playing in the office, not with live fertilizer in the office, but, coming up with ideas. And somebody said, what if you took this idea of a cartridge system and combined it with what they do today? So has anybody ever seen this? Maybe? So there's a really quick commercial that explains it, so you don't have to listen to me.
Having a great lawn doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, now it's a Snap. Meet Snap, the all-new spreader system from Scott's. No heavy bags, no messy pouring, and no guesswork. Just snap in a Snap Pack, lock, and go. A great lawn made easy. The Snap from Scott's. For more information, visit scottsnap.com.
I remember when we were working on this, they were like, we went down to their office in these meetings, they were so excited about the product, but they were panicking because they thought it would eat into their sales. And because the fertilizer, you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, it's almost all Scott's. And what happened was it actually got them new market. So if you live in like a little house in Mayfield Heights, you get this. If you live around Lakeland, you get a big hopper that has multiple bags, you need acres worth. So it was a really good business model, and they're still ramping it up after several years in the market, so doing well.
Yeah, it's the classic razor blade. And one of the things that's, one of the things that's interesting about it is, if you look at the bottom of the bag, I thought there was a bottom here somewhere, it's basically keyed so that when you there's probably now 15 flavors of what goes in this bag, from fertilizer to fire ant, whatever, and so on. The bag is keyed, so it drops into that dispenser, that spreader, and it automatically sets it. That was one of the big pain points with customers. What do you set it at? If you put too much in, it'll burn the grass, not enough, doesn't work. There's all kinds of issues. And it was a very simple solution for that. You take a dustbuster, right? Take a Swiffer. We're all familiar with Swiffers, right? What's the problem with a Swiffer? Moving it around, picks up fuzz, cat hair, great. Little chunks of cookies, little pieces of candy, not good. So we had been working with Royal Appliance, Dirt Devil, for many years. And so we knew vacuuming well. So we thought if we could maybe put a vacuum edge on the front of a Swiffer pad, we could have something pretty cool. I don't know why that just disappears.
I don't know. It didn't. 10
I'm not
minutes
touching
ago we
it.
practiced it together.
Anyway, so
Well, there's another image after.
there may be a video with this. So that vacuum edge along the front, the Swiffer pad in the back. Most people don't realize Procter & Gamble is the largest maker of vacuum cleaners in the country. The reason is they produce the Swiffer Sweeper Vac, and it's sold in grocery stores. We all visit grocery stores far more than we visit other places like Walmarts and Targets and so on. And that's why it's succeeded so well.
Switch to the new and improved Swiffer Sweeper Vac, and you'll dump your old broom. New Swiffer Sweeper Vac does more than sweep. It has a powerful vacuum to suck up the big stuff and electrostatic dry cloths to pick up the rest.
Can I talk about this?
Yeah, there's a company called Rug Doctor, and they make the rental units at like Home Depot and Lowe's for deep carpet wet extraction. So you spill, your dog has an accident, you go to Home Depot, you get one of these rental units. That's usually theirs. And they were getting pushed out of the market by Bissell. It was the #1 vacuum cleaner company, that has the biggest reach. And so they came to us and said, what do we do? And we said, you should do some consumer products. And we actually did 2, but in our, you hit the button again. In our brainstorming sessions, we said, how do you make it easier to use a little vacuum cleaner? Because they have a little spot bot, from Bissell. You put it down, it kind of does its thing. It sucks. It's horrible. It doesn't work, and it's expensive. So we said, what if we could make something that's easy to pull around for mom, and something that has twice the amount of suction that any other unit on the market has, which this does, and it's cheaper. And we came up with this guy, and I think there's a video.
Oh, it's muddy too.
On the white sofa.
It's really easy to just pull it up, and the suction's really nice. It takes out all the water.
I really like that vibrating brush because it really got in there. I can be done in minutes.
It has wheels, rolls around with me, and it can get all the way to the corner.
I remember we were in the design phase of this, and engineers were up for weeks, and we had a tight timeline, and people worked their butts off, and we went to consumer groups, and what do you think about it? And they're like, we love it. And then the female customer goes, but it's not cute. We're like, you gotta be kidding me. It's not cute. So we had to go back and redesign it, make it cuter. True story. But they're the consumer, they're buying it, not, so they're right.
Axe, are you familiar with the brand Axe? If you have any, I don't think there's any 15 to 20-year-olds in the room. Maybe there are. But if you have
At heart, we all are.
young men in the 15 to 20-year-old range, Axe is a very large brand and growing brand for Unilever. It's basically a body spray for young males. And so Unilever came to us, and we did some research on the customer. And Axe is like, the size of a can of Coke almost, and they spray. It's great. They love the product, but they wanted to take it with them. They're out wherever 18-year-olds go today, and they don't have a can with them. They said they would carry something if they could fit in their pocket. And so we started looking at ways to do that. Not an insignificant challenge, trust me. We ended up creating a product that was the size of a chapstick that had the power of a giant can of Axe. That's really annoying when that goes off like that. I'm just telling you. So it's really the size of a chapstick, even though it's this big. The other thing is, aerosol's been around for 90 years. First question Unilever said is, great, how do we protect that? Well, if I told you wanted to put an aerosol in your pocket, what would your concern be? spraying in your pocket, right? So you see this little collar here? You twist that, it locks, untwist it, it unlocks. It's a locking aerosol, never been done before. Why would you lock an aerosol? Well, we had a reason to, so we have a patent on a locking aerosol can. So that's why it fits in your pocket. It's a very strong patent around it. Unilever is the largest maker of aerosols in the world. The opening order for this was 100 million units. And the cost on that was a severe constraints on the cost. We had to build that. There's about 12 or 14 parts in there. We had to have seals. We had to source around the world for right seals. Fragrance oil it just gets in and around everything. It's amazing how insidious it is to move around and deteriorate things. So we found a certain material in Milan, Italy that we could make seals out of, other parts of the world for various things. But that thing had to cost 22 cents because it had to retail for 99 cents. That was, I'm telling you, that is an engineering marvel. One of the things we're very proud of. To get the cost right, manufacturing right, and the performance and the success in the marketplace.
Never even tell me you love me. Which is good. I hate it when guys get sentimental.
A quick fix from Lynx.
It's so true, right?
And that's one of the ones we can show you because in Europe the commercials are just, they're almost X-rated. They're really, it's unbelievable what they can get away with. You take a beer keg, right, on the left. You take a fridge pack on the right. There's some value in both of those. And when you bring them together, you create Tap King, home draft beer. So what you see is a 3-liter bottle, fits into a dispensing head, fits into your refrigerator, so you can go in, for those who love beer, you can get a fresh draft beer right out of the refrigerator. And it is a great tasting beer. This is being soft launched in Australia, where they love their beer. This is, the retail on this, the dispensing head is $20. This sells for about $10. It's about 12 cans of beer. Now, you look at this and say, okay, great. How do you dispense beer effectively all the time? We ended up finding a way in here, you know, little silver bullet CO2 cartridges. That is in every one of these. That is what drives the beer out. Also, when you're going to get draft beer, it always seems to taste better. It's because CO2 is pushing it through the lines. You can experience that, and it's different than a can of beer. So that's why you also get that flavor. Now, CO2 cartridge this big is 750 psi. Beer dispenses out of here at 15 psi. Just get a regulator. Go from 750 to 15. Regulators, if you go to buy them, they're about $100. That had to have one, and it had to retail for $20. We had to design and engineer and manufacture a regulator for less than $3. And we did. Engineers, I love you all. That was not insignificant to do. We worked with the largest brewery in Australia, which is called Lion, L-Y-O-N. They built a huge filling plant, and this is going great. I think there's a commercial.
I love you.
Well, we love Lionel. He's great. Yeah, that's great. We hope to see it in the U.S. soon, but yeah, that was a great spot. I love the piano keeps playing even though he's doing this. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. So MTD is a great, Ohio company, and we have a good relationship with them. And so they said, we want you to come up with a new product in this category, which is outdoor power equipment. They said, go. Like, oh, okay. How do you make something different in these stores that you go, it's like a seasonal product. You go in, there's 10 different snow blowers, there's 10 different lawn mowers. And so we said, okay, we have an idea. And the market since 2008 has been the same or shrinking for these types of products. So they really had to do something different. We took out the darn it. So what we did was create a product that had one motor that you can put all your different attachments onto. So you don't have to buy a snow blower, leaf blower, power washer, and maintain all those different motors. You have one motor you take care of.
Meet the Troy-Bilt Flex, a whole new approach to yard care with one engine and multiple attachments to handle all your outdoor tasks, from blowing to throwing to mowing, so you can get just the tools you need or get them all. To use Flex, roll your power base up to the attachment until you hear the latch and lock system click into place. When you're ready to switch to another machine, simply use the kickstand to disengage. You only need to understand, operate, and maintain one all-season engine. With single-purpose machines, the garage can fill up pretty quickly. But with Flex, you can reduce your storage footprint by up to 60%. The Flex system redefines outdoor power equipment by tailoring to your individual yard care needs, with new attachments rolling out all the time. Troy-Bilt Flex. When you try it, it just clicks. Available now at Lowe's.
So it was interesting, I wasn't on the team that worked on this, but they came back from a meeting at Lowe's, and Lowe's said, we want this product, it's really different. And they said for the first time in the history of Lowe's, they took, a bay is like where they put the products, so they keep putting these bay, and you get all these different brands. They put a big banner and said, Flex coming soon. And it was there for about 4 months, 2 months, which if you work in retail, that's like a no-no. That space is valuable. You never don't have any product on the ground, so they're excited.
And one of the things that we're very proud of is this, we just found out about a week ago that MTD, and obviously with us, received their Innovation Partner of the Year. They have thousands of suppliers that supply Lowe's. They were selected #1, the Innovation Partner of the Year for this product. I think this last grouping is a company called HealthSpot. Are you familiar with HealthSpot? HealthSpot is telemedicine. Now, what you do, there's Walgreens out there, pharmacies, so on. Then there's a world of ATMs, And again, if you follow the model we're talking about, it'll give you something like this, which is the medicine and doctor care of the future. It's basically a kiosk. It's about a 40 square footprint. And there's an attendant, not a doctor, but an attendant to help guide you through if you have any questions. In the front of that, you swipe either a credit card or your insurance card. And let's assume you're kind of all logged in, name, address, and that thing's for the first time. But you swipe it in. You can set up an appointment online, or you can just walk in if you want to. Inside, there is touchpads, there is various ways to access the unit, but there's a flat screen that your doctor then, or a doctor of your choice, pops up, and it's a face-to-face visit. Around this area, I think there's some better pictures, but around in here, there's storage areas for 6 high definition medical instruments, otoscope, stethoscope, pulse oximeter, various things like that. That's a better picture. Blood pressure cuff. So if you need help, the attendant can help you do that. Or it can be as private as you want because there's an access door there. But you're talking face-to-face with the doctor. They analyze that. Interestingly enough, you can take the otoscope or another instrument. You can actually see what the doctor's seeing. You can't do that today. They're looking in your ear. You don't know what they're looking at. So you see what they see on the screen. And in fact, you can go in with little pens and circle things, and this looks inflamed, and this looks whatever. And so you really get a better understanding of what's going on as you're being diagnosed. I think there's a video with this.
Now, meanwhile, one of the hot trends is virtual doctor visits. HealthSpot is at the center of this business. It is stations. It has stations being used in grocery stores and hospital systems in 4 states. It is announcing a new partnership today with pharmacy retailer Rite Aid. Joining us right now in a Fox Business exclusive is Steve Cashman. He is founder and CEO of HealthSpot, and Robert Thompson, Rite Aid Executive Vice President of Pharmacy. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us. I love this story. Tell you right now. I want to show our viewers what HealthSpot is. Can you tell us exactly what is HealthSpot?
HealthSpot is reinventing the way a consumer gets to the doctor. And basically what we've done is we've replicated the process in software that a consumer would use to book an appointment. Ultimately, they're going to end up in a pharmacy, and they come inside the HealthSpot station, and they're surrounded by cutting-edge medical technology, and they get to select a doctor from one of the top local communities that are there and see that doctor via video conference.
So the first big partnership that you announced is with Rite Aid. Robert Thompson, why is Rite Aid partnering with HealthSpot?
Well, we're very excited to launch HealthSpot. We're constantly focused on our mission to deliver unique healthcare services in our pharmacies, and this is one of those offerings that we think is the time is now for telehealth.
So that they're launching 100 Rite Aids in this Northeast Ohio area as we speak, and so we're very excited about that partnership with Rite Aid. And that is our presentation. So if you have a few more minutes, we'd be happy to answer any questions. It's a good question because we get asked a lot. Who owns the patents? Well, as you know, with patents, the inventors have to be named on the patents. That's a given. But we assign all the patent rights to the companies we work with. And the only caveat is they just have to pay their bill. If they pay their bill, we assign the rights. But the companies own the intellectual property. It's interesting because working with MTD, they are looking at that entire chain. Where's the metal coming from? What's the impact on the local area that the mine is located? All the way through to how it's disposed of and how it can be broken down and recycled or separated. So each thing we do, and not everything fits in that model because it depends on the client companies we're working with, but that's always part of our methodology as we go through this because it's a very important thing, especially with plastics. There's many variations on plastics. Some are hybrids of things, much harder to recycle. So, and then you look at films on in packaging. Some things that you don't even think about. Potato chips, they have 16, 17 layers of different materials to make up the bag. So, I mean, you have to be aware of all these things, and we do our best. It's tough to keep ahead of these things, though, that's for sure. We do.
We have a lot of partners that we work with and know the standards, and I mean, we've launched a lot of products overseas or ones we want to take from the U.S. overseas.
But there's no question Europe is far ahead of us when it comes to standards.
Yeah, we have amazing ideas when it comes to like being eco-friendly, and they're really good ideas. And we take them to consumer focus groups whenever we can. We go, what do you think of this? They're like, oh, that's amazing. You guys are geniuses.
It does make shareholder value.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cost, right?
Yeah, that's what they go. And I was like, but I won't pay a penny more for it.
Yeah, it's a tough crowd out there, there's no question, especially in the U.S. I mean, they're incredibly cost conscious. They're willing to support things if they don't cost much more. So it really becomes a challenge of designers and engineers to be able to meet those goals. And, you know, we do a decent job at it. We could certainly be better, there's no question about it. The other thing, you reminded me of something else. We work with you know what biomimicry is? It's looking at things in nature, solving problems today. You know, the gecko feet, how do they stick to walls when they're little animals running around? And so you look at things like that and bring them in to solve problems that we have today in a very interesting way, because, you know, with 10, 20, 30, $50 billion years of evolution, you know, nature solves most things. And if you can learn from that, which is one of the things we're doing, it really does make a big difference. It makes it much simpler from an economical and ecological point of view as well. You know, it depends. How would you answer that? How long does it take to get a
We
product?
had a client we worked with that produced, you know, if you're married, your wife makes you dinner the night before and you pack it in those little to-go containers, you take it to work, or you make your own dinner the night before and you take it to work and you pop it off the Ziploc, you know, reusable containers. We had an idea, there's all different types of brands, and they all make them almost identical to try to mimic Ziploc, because they're the big guys. And the problem is consumers are buying different brands and putting them in one drawer, and you go to get the bottom and the top, and you'd think they fit, but they pop off because they were so close in size. So we were working with a company, we said, what if you made it a matching system? So you put a little logo here, a little logo on the side. If you go in the Target today, they sell them, it's a private label company. They implemented it in a really bad way, but you'll see a little heart on the side and a little heart on the lids. When you're in your drawer, you go heart, heart, done. And we showed that idea to the company, like 2 weeks later, they took it and put it in their tooling. It was like 2 weeks later, that's how quickly they made it and implemented it. But a standard program for...
Well, like the Flex unit for MTD, that was about an 18-month program. But that was a very complicated program. You're talking about 6 fairly sophisticated pieces of outdoor power equipment, and then, you know, the drive unit that went with it. So that was probably one of the longer ones. But most programs are, you know, 9 to 12 months to get to the production
idea
level.
Is the easy part. It's the tooling and the funding internally to get the idea onto the market. So.
Well, that's a...
You mean like suit or?
No, just to losing money. But it's one of the things is to be constantly keeping close to your client. I mean, no surprises. Talking to your customer. We do a lot of touch points along the way with client or the potential customers. If it's a, you know, outdoor power equipment, we're talking to people using these things on a regular basis. So we're doing focus groups quite a bit. You know, you can make, you want to make little mistakes. You don't want to have a huge mistake at the end. And that's why you just keep adjusting. So sometimes the scope moves or changes a little bit, and you start here and you may end up a little further away than you originally started. But you're always keeping close to your customer and your client.
Yeah, the vacuum cleaner that they thought wasn't cute, I was joking, but like, if we missed that and kept going, and then Rug Doctor spends millions and millions of dollars on tooling, a new factory for 2 of these things. I mean, repair shop, I mean, they, you know, millions of dollars. Now it's their #1 selling product, but if we didn't catch that little thing, you go in and go, that's kind of ugly. You're on to the next product. It's like, I mean, there's a lot of innovation, but sometimes it's that simple. I'm great at quotes. So
Bill Gates has a famous quote, "Success is a terrible teacher." You're going to fail. Embrace that. Learn from it, because the failures along the way will lead to great successes. When you enjoy too many successes in a row, it was later in my life I heard the word hubris. I didn't know what the hell that was. I learned that lesson painfully earlier in my life. You don't want to get hubris. You just think you can do anything. You can solve anything. You're brilliant. Not true. Not true. So you want to learn from these things, and they will serve you well for an entire career. Also, one of the things that I value the most is you learn with entrepreneurs, they don't usually like to work with other people. I mean, they want to be in charge of everything. As we were talking over dinner, I met my partner when I was in school, and we started working together and realized early on that we worked well together. And that's a very valuable thing, and you don't think about it when you're in your late teens and 20s. But the longer you're around this earth, you realize you really do value those people that do what they say they're going to do, keep their promises, are honest with you. Those are rare people, and you wish there were more of them in your life, put it that way. And so if you ever get into a business or are in one and you have a partner, they're like gold. I spend more time with my partner than I do with my wife. I mean, really. We spend so many hours together. Our office, we have that beautiful building, right? You remember that little garage? Well, that only had 3 rooms. So one of the rooms was our office. We moved into the other building, the little bigger building. Well, we took one room, became our office. We have a 60,000 square foot beautiful facility. We share an office. Our desks are this far apart. And it's interesting because we had been doing that our whole careers, and we were watching, I don't know if it was a 60-minute segment or something. They had the chairman and the president, or the president and the vice president of one of the Japanese motor companies. Doesn't matter at this point. They shared an office. I mean, that communication was so valuable to that company. They were a multi-billion-dollar company, but they shared an office. And, you know, it reinforced our belief that we're doing the right thing, you know? When you have someone you work well with, you don't have all the ideas, but boy, I'll tell you, we complement each other well, and we encourage that with all the other associates we have. And it's a very flat organization. Our door is always open. Everyone works well together. We have great teams, great mentors to the younger designers and engineers that come through. There's no attitude in our building. We just won't tolerate it. I mean, we don't do it, nor would we want to, and so no one else can do it. I mean, it's, you know, when you work with clients over the years, you know, you've been in some pretty ugly meetings sometimes, loud, yelling, throwing, I mean, you know, it can be awful. That's not the environment we want to have. And those are not clients we want to work with.
I had a model thrown at my head once. Yeah. He missed, but...
I didn't do that.
No, it was a client.
Oh, it was a client. That's too bad. Anyway, so, you know, it's one of the fun parts about an entrepreneur is you can kind of set your own rules, right? And you can, you want to do what is right and what inspires creativity. A lot of the people in our office are creative people. And as a designer, which is what my partner and I both are, you know, we get all the credit, meaning the design world gets all the credit for being creative. And we started working, one of the first people we hired was an engineer, and it was not a good experience. It's just like, can't be done, won't work. And so we kind of moved on from that, and we started talking to the professors at Case and said, you know, we need help in this area. We don't know how to do engineering. And we have clients calling us and wanting things like appliances and things like that. And at the time, this is in the late 70s, all the engineers had their head in the clouds. They wanted to do things for space, right? I mean, Skylab and all these other things that were going on. we started talking about, well, would you join us to do a toaster? It's like, are you kidding? Why would we do that? Well, you know, space has kind of gone through cycles, and all of a sudden people realize that NASA's not going to be hiring forever or at that time. And the professor called us and said, we've got this one guy, one student, he's kind of, I'm probably being kind, but he's like, he's a little strange. It's like, maybe he would work at your place. So we brought him in. The guy was brilliant. And he stayed with us for 30 years. And what we did was we learned from that, and you know, he was with us for a year, and we said, is there any other weird people like you in Case? And yeah, so we brought another one in. And this is how we built our engineering department. And we've hired engineers from many schools, but my point is we have creative designers, but we also recruit for creative engineers. I mean, that's a very important part. You don't think of engineers as being creative. We have some of the most creative engineers in the country. They sit in the focus groups along with the designers. They'll be listening to the consumer, voicing their concerns about something. They'll be picking that up. I mean, we'll have client companies come in and insist that they bring their engineering team in. It's the first time they've ever been in a focus group behind the glass. They've never been involved in that part of it. And that's not right. You don't get the best out of people like that, especially an engineering team, when they don't understand the whole process, when they're not hearing it from the consumer or from the customer. That's a very important part of what we've built into our organization. And that's, I think, why we have such speed to market and such attention to detail, and why we create some of the really cool things and very successful products for our clients. And it's just, you have to make it a very interesting place to be. You have to inspire. It has to be a place to be inspired. And a church is a great place to start. We got a head start on a lot of other buildings. Well, people come to us with ideas all the time. So we see opportunities, okay? The question, though, is, we were, again, talking about this not too long ago, there's a couple things have to happen. You have to have, at least there has to be some patentable features about it. And anymore, if it's not patented, we can't look at it, because it's just, if it's not protected, at least in some fashion, it doesn't, you know. The other thing is you need a budget. There has to be money coming from someplace. Unfortunately, even though it looks like a bank, we're not a bank. People come there, they think we give money away.
Yeah, it's hard enough. We work with huge companies that you would, you know, billion-dollar companies, and we're trying to do a new innovation. And like, you know, we don't have the money in the budget this year. It's like, you don't have $200,000? Like, you just spent it on one ad on TV. What are you talking about? It's like they don't think that way. So we try to see people, but it comes down to it doesn't help to see you if you can't get the idea to market, and that takes us money.
I mean, HealthSpot was a startup. The Spin Brush was a startup. These started with just an idea, and but we were able to find the money to develop it further. But to Evan's point about, I mean, it's almost laughable. It's like you'll sit in these multi-billion-dollar companies, yet they all have people run in their own departments, and they all have their own budgets. And if you miss that window, they have no money. And it's almost a joke. They have plenty of money to travel, to meet with us, but they have no money in the budget to spend.
Companies just flew in with 8 executives, had their own plane. Like, you know, can we do a program? Oh, man, that's a lot of money. It's like, that's what you just spent on your flight over? It's like, you know how much it is to fly a private jet, Learjet, with 8 people for a day? And it was their entire top team. Can you imagine if that plane went down? I'm like, what are you doing flying in one plane?
That was scary. Well, thank you. We're honored to be there, actually. It's served us very well. We've had executives and CEOs from all over the world. We've had the last 2 CEOs from Home Depot there. We've had the last 2 CEOs of Walmart. We've had the CEO of Unilever. It's just from all over the world, and most of them, it's the first time they've ever been to Cleveland. True, and they come because they're coming to talk to us, and we make sure we show the city off well. We'll try to arrange dinners and visits to other places in the city, because this is a great. I probably I shouldn't even say this out loud. I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I'm still a Steeler fan. But I've obviously been in Cleveland far longer than I've ever been in Pittsburgh. This is an incredible city. I mean, this city is on the rise. Pittsburgh is a great place to visit, but I'll tell you, this is a city that's on the move. I mean, you look at what's going on just in the downtown area. You look at the talent that's coming back to the city. We've put a lot of our focus in the last few years on medical and medical devices. This is becoming Medical Valley. You look at the Cleveland Clinic, University Hospital, Akron, the Global Center for Innovation, Medical Innovation. I mean, and we see it because we're involved in a lot of these things, and we see companies coming here, entrepreneurs coming here, technologies coming here, and the reason they're coming here is because they understand that this region, this area, is tuned into medical and medical devices. They have support relative to venture capital and angel investors and looking for medical devices to support. It's a company, it's a region on the rise. I mean, it is the best time in the last 75 years to be in Cleveland. And it's only going to get better by the year, I'm telling you. There's just so many good things going on, and I'm preaching to the choir, I know. That's because I spend too much time in a church. But it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be. We try to get as many talented people to come back. We've recruited from California and the East Coast to get people back to this area. The cost of living. I mean, if any of you have been outside the area on the coast, my God, people come here, they're amazed at what you can buy. Even though, you all have mortgages probably, but it pales in the comparison what you would pay on the coast. It's just, and then we got the lake and all these other great things in this area. This is really a wonderful place to be. We're thrilled to be part of this community now. Our families are here. We have huge investments in, as all of you. And it's just a great time to be a Clevelander. But you got to get a football team. You got to get a football team. And I shouldn't say it. My partner, his son-in-law is Chris Antonetti, who's the president of the Cleveland Indians. So he feels the pain personally. Thank you.
Any last quick questions?